Okay, cover your ears or turn the volume down. Make sure the dogs are ready for this. All right, hold on to your hats. You're going to reposition the work piece so that this little tail that's falling off the table, I'm going to turn everything so we get the tail end of this plywood back onto the table. And what we have now is a shiny new garment for our Nutshell Pram, excuse me. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day for a neighbor. I always kind of feel like Mr. Rogers when I come out to the shop and put on the shop shirt and got the shop shoes and all the protective equipment. And it's a nice relaxing spot. So today, one sheet of plywood, we're able to get one garboard and 2 of the middle planks and 2 of the shear planks for the Nutshell Pram. And hold on, we're gonna spin left here. Our day sailor Cyan and our little sword 15 runabout Willow hanging out in the front yard with our 8-foot punt scuppers. Go into the shop, see what's happening in here. Yesterday we spent the afternoon working on the first bevels for on the bottom plank. And to do that, it's recommended that to find what angle to make this right here, that you tack on a little batten. So I think we spent more time trying to make a batten out of some spruce than we did actually doing the bevel. We cut one, it was a little too small, and it split. Cut another one, still a little too small, split. We finally came up, it's about a little heavy on a 1/2 inch side square, and it's working so far. But you know, getting one out of a long piece of hardwood, it probably might be a better, more durable batten, but it worked. So when we put this batten on just below where the bottom plank's gonna sit, and then you can come in with the straight edge. You could use your plane, or we just took a piece of scrap board and you line it up the bottom edge of this straight piece here, right there on the bottom edge of the batten, and come across, lay it on the edge, and up, still stuff in the way up here, not cooperating. And you get that, and you get the beveled edge, so it'll lay flat across edge of this bottom plank. It confused me a little bit at first. I'm like, wow, I've got a big gap there, but this piece is just a station bolt number 3. It's not part of the boat, so we don't need to worry about whether it's matching up to that or not. We come up and get our, everything's still in the way. These clamps for the midships frame, and up on the bow. And then you just kind of keep going down long, and then find a nice transition into the forekeel. Keep going down long all the way to the bow, and then on off across. See if I can get it lined up here. Across the bow transom. And so that plank will come down like that, and it'll lay in there real nice. Got to take a look today. Richard pointed out that our centerline mark's not right where I've got the middle of this keel coming down. So I'm going to remeasure this, see if it's where it's supposed to do. I might be able to take a little bit more off and get that closer to center. I might just leave it, because the Great Spirit says that you can't make a boat perfect, because only the Great Spirit can make something perfect. So we'll check on that later. We'll start tacking this garboard into place. There's markings on the plans, a little reference line that tells you to put this plank with your reference line just after the midships frame, and it should lay down. Oh, that's the wrong reference line. Like that doesn't fit. There it is. They even tell you to put an X on it, so you can remember which line it is you're looking at. And then when you lay it on there, you know, it's hard to do this with even 2 hands, much less one-handed while you're filming. You should line it up and see that you're just barely covering your bevel on the inside edge of your plank. So we plan on tacking this plank. We're gonna put epoxy, move this out of the way, epoxy along this edge, and then epoxy on the inside edge. Spread it out with a paint stick. get it lined up, and then tack it into place with some, I'm going to use a little 2-inch long deck screws. A lot of people use drywall screws. And screw that in. It may or may not have enough bite through this bevel. And the reason for the screws is to hold things in place while the epoxy dries. And then in a couple areas, we'll use some of these bigger clamps that we made. When we built the Penobscot, we use these primarily on the scarf. So these will be able to reach past the plank and clamp on in a couple spots. If I wasn't in a big hurry, I could make some more and have about 10 or 15 or 800 of those and clamp it on and avoid the screw holes that'll be left behind. And it wasn't noted in the plans, but Richard said to leave these pieces long on the end, and that'll be a lot of help, because then you could attach a clamp or something else when you start trying to put that twist in it to get it aligned. If it was cut right to length, well, two things: you might find out that, oops, I drew it a little short, or then you're having problems trying to get this edge pushed down. So we'll work on the garbirds tomorrow, first thing. And like I said, I'm planning on spin you over here to the carriage house central. Use these little 2-inch screws. They're threaded most of the way. We'll have the thickness of the plank and the thickness of the bevel underneath it. And then there'll be some screw left. And now we're going to spin you back around to the right. Get a little carriage house tour along the way. There's the usual visitors over there that supervise. The wall of rudders and dagger boards for our vintage Alcourt fleet. And we went and picked up some PVC foam board today. It's a brand called Palight, I believe is what the gentleman told me, P-A-L-I-G-H-T. Did a little test with it to see if it would take a fastener, and it does. The fastener goes through real easy, but then it sticks and holds, so that's going to work. There's the plane on its side for Richard. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to call it a wrap for today. Well, oh, one other thing on this saw before we go. And one thing about our high-tech camera stand here. It's sponsored by Rust-Oleum. This saw, you may have noticed, is a left-handed saw. It's also the little 6.5-inch blade. It's a little smaller than your normal circular saw. And the reason I like using this is you can cut that curve like we just cut. And Skipper's the one that told me about that. Said they used to do it in theater all the time. She told me a few years ago. I had no idea. I mean, I know I can't cut a straight line with a circular saw, so it only makes sense I could cut a curved line with it. So this is the saw we like to use for that. There's one that's even smaller that's sold by Rockler, I believe. But you run out of places to hold onto the saw on that smaller saw. And it's also a corded tool. So we found with the jigsawing and circular saws, we are enjoying having the cordless, so that we're not getting it never fails that the cord will get cut in the little, the little cut that's made, the little crack behind where you just cut, and you get about halfway down and the tool stops. You can't go any further because your cord's all jammed up in the cut behind it. So that's what we like about this saw. The one thing that you have to watch out for, some gotchas, and that's why I've got a little piece of orange tape on here to remind me that this saw can be very dangerous if you don't use it properly. You're not aware of what it can do. It can back up on you real quick if you're doing a circular cut like that. So don't stand behind it. Don't have your hand or fingers or anything behind it. And also, if you're working on it, I'm right-handed. If I'm working on this side, there's a lot of sawdust and the work material that comes out on this side. So that's why we make sure we've got on eye protection and wear masks to keep the sawdust out of our lungs and our eyeballs. But the benefit of it, once again, or I don't know if I mentioned it yet, was that if I'm standing on this side, I can see right where that blade's cutting, and right to the line in most cases is how I like to cut. Whereas some other saws, you might be trying to look through a bunch of machinery to see where the blade's cutting at. So there's a little DeWalt tool we like to use. I'm sure other companies sell a similar type of saw. So we're gonna make sure we get the shop really clean, because that's how Richard likes it. And we'll be back with you soon. That about does it.